So Ella, really what he means to say is Lama Marian, why does we blow a trua? Once again we ask, Marian blowing a trua, Rachman Amr, the Torah says, Richard trua. So Ella, what he really means to ask is Lama taking a Marian chain yashvin, why is that we blow kiyas and truas when they're sitting, meaning before Shemana Esrei, and Tesayino based on top of it, taking a Marian chain then we also blow the shofar when they're standing, meaning during Shemana Esrei. That's Kedela Arba Satan, in order to confuse the Satan sees how dear the mitzvah is to us, so therefore this blowing confuses the Satan and he's not able to prosecute Klal Yisrael. And from Rabbi Yitzchak he says, Kol shana she'ein teiken la b'tchilasa, any year that we don't blow the shofar properly in the beginning, meirin la b'seifa, we're going to end up having to blow the shofar at the end of it. That's because terrible things are going to happen and we're going to have to proclaim a fast which we blow the shofar at. And my time, why is that? Delay Arba Satan, because the Satan wasn't confused in the beginning of the year, and therefore he was able to prosecute us. And from Rabbi Yitzchak he says, Kol shana she'rasha b'tchilasa, any year which is poor in the beginning, that means we make ourselves like paupers and we beg in front of Hashem, misasheres b'seifa, at the end we're going to become wealthy, it's going to be a good year at the end. Shinemar says in the pasuk, Meireshis Hashanah, from the beginning of the year, and really Meirashis Ksiv, it's written without an aleph, so we could read it as Reish Shin, as in a pauper. And Va'ad Achres, the pasuk says, Va'ad Achres Shana, Seifa Shish La Achres, at the end it will have an Achres, it will have a future, it will be full of prosperity. And V'amar Yitzchak he says, Ain't on Nesa Adam Elef Yimatzav Shal Isa Shah. In Shemayim they don't judge a person except based off his actions, where he's holding at that very point in time. Shinemar, it says about Yishmael, Kishem El Kim El Kal Hanar, Hashem heard the voice of the lad, but Asher Husham, where he was there, meaning at that very point in time, wherever he was holding then, that's how Hashem judged him. And Amar Yitzchak he says, Gimel Dvar Maskir Navanesel Shel Adam, there are three things that will bring up a person's averis in front of Hashem, meaning Hashem is going to judge a person. Eluhaim, these are them. Kir Natui, if a person passes by a leaning wall, so he put himself into a dangerous situation, Hashem says, really this person's so confident that he's allowed to be in that dangerous situation, let's see if he really is meritorious for that. And the second one is Ve'iyun Tefillah, expectance of acceptance. If a person expects that his tefillah should be accepted, so Hashem says, why is it that you're expecting that? It must be you think you're such a good guy. Let's look into you to see if you really deserve that. And the third one is, if a person hands his friend's judgment over to Hashem, instead of taking him to Bezdin, he says, Hashem, you should judge this person. Hashem says, really, you're so confident that you would pass by a judgment in front of me, so let me judge you. The Amr of Khan, he says, if a person hands his friend's judgment over to Hashem, he's going to be punished first. Shneimar, the pasuk says, Sarai said to Avram, my injustice is upon you, and the continuation of the pasuk is, Yishbait Hashem b'nei u'beinecha, Hashem should judge between me and you. Uksiv in the pasuk says, Vayave Avram lisbay l'Sara v'livkaisa, Avram came to eulogize Sarah and to cry for her. We see that because of this, Sarah died before Avram. And for Amar of Yitzchak he says, Dal dvar mekarim gzardinu shel Adam, there are four things that are going to tear up a bad decree of a person. Eluhaim, these are them, tzedakah, charity, tzedakah, crying out to Hashem, shinoi Hashem, a person changing their name, v'shinoi maaseh, and a person changing their deeds, doing good deeds. Tzedakah, the chesiv, it says in the pasuk, utzedakah tatzal u'maves, and charity saves from death. Tzedakah, the chesiv, it says in the pasuk, vayitzaku el Hashem b'tzar lohem, and they cried out to Hashem in their pain, and he would take them out from their straits. Shinoi Hashem, a person changing their name, which means it's like making them into a new person. The chesiv, it says in the pasuk, Sarai ishtacha, Sarai your wife, loy sikra shma Sarai, you shouldn't call her name Sarai, ki Sarah shma, for her name is Sarah. And uksiv, it says afterwards, Beirachti son, I've blessed her, v'gam nasati yimenu l'cha bein, I've also given a son to you from her. And Shini Maisa, how do we know that a person changing their deeds will change Gzar Din? The chesiv, it says about the people of Nineveh who are going to be destroyed because of their bad deeds. Vayar l'kim es ma'aseim, Hashem saw their deeds. Uksiv, and it says, Vayinachem elikim al hara'ah asher diber la'asos lahem v'loy asa. Hashem reconsidered regarding the bad that he was going to do to them, and he didn't do it. And the Yeshem, some say, Avshinu makam, even if a person changes the place where he lives, so his Gzar Din is going to be torn up. The chesiv says in the pasuk, Vayemer Shem al Avram lech lecha me'artzecha, you should go from your land, meaning you should move places. V'hadar, and afterwards it says, V'aschal gadol, I'm going to make you into a great nation, meaning I'm going to give you children. V'idach, the other one that doesn't count this, Hahuz chusud Eretz Yisrael hu dahanile. It's just the schus of Avram moving to Eretz Yisrael. That's why he was able to have a child, but it's not because it was shinoi makam. And for Amar Yitzchak he says, Chayv adam l'hakol b'nei Rabbi regel, a person has to go visit his Rebbe on Yontif. Shneimar says in the pasuk, the Isha Hashunamis was going to visit Elisha, and her husband asked her, Madu atoy lechas elav hayom loy chaydish v'loy Shabbos. Why are you going to him? It's not Rosh Chodesh and it's not Shabbos. Mechlal, we learn from there, the b'chaydish v'Shabbos and Rosh Chodesh and Shabbos and for sure on Yontif, ibayla l'mezel. So she should go visit the great man, meaning you should visit your Rebbe on Yom Tif. And from Rav Yitzchak he says, Chayv adam l'tar satzmei b'regel, a person has to retire himself, he has to purify himself before the regel, meaning he has to make sure he's not tamei. Shinemar says the pasuk, v'nivlasim go, and you shouldn't touch their carcass, meaning you shouldn't touch the carcass of an animal, you should be tahar. And Tainam Yachal, we have a breast like this. It says in the pasuk, v'nivlasim go, Yachal, you might think you Yisrael muzharin al magen avela, that you regular Yisrael, a regular Yid, one who's not a kain, he has to make sure that he doesn't touch the carcass of an animal even during the year. Tamalaymer, that's why the pasuk says, Amral akanim b'nei Aaron, you should tell the kaihanim of the b'nei Aaron that they're not allowed to touch a corpse. B'nei Aaron muzharin, b'nei Yisrael ein muzharin. B'nei Aaron, meaning kaihanim, they're cautioned, they're not allowed to touch a corpse. However, Yid is allowed to. And v'aloy dvarim kal v'chaymer, it's a kal v'chaymer. Uma toma chamura, when we're dealing with very strict toma, that's talking about corpse toma, meaning a human corpse. Kaihanim muzharim, kaihanim, they're cautioned, they are not allowed to become Tame, Yisrael Ein Muzharm, a Yisrael, he is allowed to become Tame to a person, Toma Kalo, we're dealing with very light Toma, such as a Nevela, a dead animal, like Kal Shekain, for sure Yid is allowed to touch a Nevela. So Elamat Hamulim Rav Navasim Lais to go. So why is the Pasuk says you're not allowed to touch a Nevela? That's Beregel, it must be talking about An Yontif. So a person, when he goes up to the Beis HaMikdash, he's going to bring his karbanos and he's going to be eating kachim, he has to make sure that he's pure before the Regel. And more about Rosh Hashanah. Amar of Chris B'day, Amar B'Yechanan, Shalosh Yisrael Niftachim Rosh Hashanah. There are 3 books that are open on Rosh Hashanah. Echad Shal Rishayim Gemurim, one is of the complete Rishayim, Echad Shal Tzadikim Gemurim, one is of the complete Tzadikim, Echad Shal Beinim, and one is of the average people. Tzadikim Gemurim, those are considered complete Tzadikim, Nichtavim V'Nichtamim La'alter L'chaim. They are written and sealed for everlasting life right away. Rishayim Gemurim, Nichtavim V'Nichtamim La'alter L'misa. Complete Rishayim, right away they're written and sealed for death. Beinanim, however, average people, Tulim Ba'imdim Rosh Hashanah B'ad Yom Kippurim. So they're hanging in balance from Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur. Zachu, if they merit, Nichtavim L'chaim, so then they'll be written for life. Loi Zachu, then Nichtavim L'misa, they'll be written for death. And Amar of Avin, he says, Mikra, what's the pasuk that supports this? The pasuk says, Yimachu Misefer Chaim, they should be erased from the book of life. Ve'im Sadikim Ayikasevu, and they shouldn't be written with Sadikim. Yimachu Misefer, those words of the pasuk, Zeh Sefer Shal Rishayim Gemurim, that's talking about the Sefer of Rishayim Gemurim. Chaim in the pasuk, Zeh Sefer Shal Tzadikim, that's referring to the Sefer of Tzadikim, and Ve'im Sadikim Ayikasevu, that's referring to Zeh Sefer Shal Beinim, the Sefer of average people. Reb Nachman Yitzchak Mehacha, he says from the following pasuk, it says in the pasuk, Ve'im Ayin, and if not, Mechenina Mesefercha Asher Kasafta, you should erase me from the Sefer that you wrote. This is Moshe Rabbeinu speaking to Hashem. Mechenina, those words in the pasuk, Zeh Sefer Shal Rishayim, that's talking about the Sefer of Rishayim. Mesefercha, Zeh Sefer Shal Tzadikim, and Asher Kasafta that you wrote, Zeh Sefer Shal Beinim, that's referring to the Sefer of Beinim. And Tanya, you have a brayso. Beishamai, Iron Beishamai says, Gimel Kitais Hein L'Yom Hadin. There are 3 groups of people for the day of judgment. Achas Shal Tzadikim Gemurim, one of pure Tzadikim. V'achas Shal Rishayim Gemurim, one of complete wicked people. V'achas Shal Beinim, and one of the average people. Tzadikim Gemurim Nichtam La'alter L'Chai Olam. They're written and sealed and signed right away for Chai Olam. Rishayim Gemurim Nichtam La'alter L'Gehenim. Right away they're written for Gehenim. Shneimar says in the pasuk, V'ravim Yishene Admas Afar, and many that sleep in the dusty earth, Yakitzu, they will awaken. Eila, these, referring to Tzadikim as L'Chai Olam, they're going to awaken for everlasting life. And Ve'ela, referring to the Rishayim, L'Charfas L'Dirayin Olam, for shame and for everlasting abhorrence. And now Beinanim, what about them? Yardim L'Gehenim, they go down to Gehenim. Yudzayin Amad Alfa Atap Umetzaftifim, and then they scream from the suffering that they suffer there just for a little bit. Ve'olam, and then they come up out of Gehenim. Now it says in the pasuk, V'hevesi as Hashlishes Ba'esh, and I'll bring that third into fire. Utzraftim Ketzref as a Kesef, and I shall purify it like one purifies silver. Uvechantim Kevchaynes Hazav, and I shall refine it like one refines gold. Hu Yikar Shmi, it will call it in my name. Vani and Oisai, I'm going to answer it. And Valeim Amar Chana, and that group of people, Chana said, Hashem Memes Umechaya, Hashem puts to death and brings to life. That's referring to the Rishayim Gemurim and the Tzadikim Gemurim. Mayrid Sha'al Vayal, he brings down into Sha'al, he brings down into Gehenim, and he brings them up. That's referring to the Beinanim. Beis Hill, Iron Beis Hill says no. The Rav Chesed, we know about Hashem that one of his midas is Rav Chesed, abundant in kindness. Mata Klape Chesed, Hashem tilts their judgment towards Chesed, and they don't even go into Gehenim. And V'aleim Amar David, about them, David HaMelech said, Ahavti Kishma Hashem Bes Kaili, I love an Hashem, here's my voice. V'aleim Amar David Kol HaParsha Kula, and actually David HaMelech said this entire parsha, all these Prakamatim that we say in Hallel, Dalaisi V'li Yoshia, I was poor, but he saved me. We're going to stop here for the day, continue talking about this tomorrow. For now, everyone should have a wonderful day.